You're listening to 17 Carat K-Pop, the podcast that's a little bit of everything with a K-pop twist. From pop culture critiques to the history of K-pop to interviews with people in the K-pop industry and K-pop artists themselves, to concert and album reviews, to a deep dive into the discographies of different K-pop artists, to K-pop news updates, to stories about the music industry more broadly. This show tries to cover everything about K-pop and K-pop as it applies to the larger music and concert scenes. Visit 17caratkpop.weebly.com for more information about the show. That's 17caratkpop.weebly.com. Hello everybody, and welcome back to 17 Carat K-Pop. 3 major stories to get to, and then we will get to the rapid-fire headlines. Since we just passed the 6-year anniversary of RM's debut mixtape coming out, I thought it would be a good time to step back and just appreciate my favorite lyrics from that release. And the messages in hindsight carry even more meaning if you're a longtime ARMY to just see his growth. Really just an interesting look back 6 years later. Then I want to get you up to speed on the Big Hit Entertainment rebranding that was discussed at a press conference the other day. And lastly, as of recording time, Dead by Daylight was supposed to have the new K-pop editions out already, but I believe that is later than expected now. Despite that official release date being confusing, when it does come out within the next week or so, hopefully, you will have the guide to get started playing. Let's get to the first topic, RM's debut mixtape. Interestingly, the album cover shows RM is having that black and white duality, showing 2 sides of himself already, which is something he talks about and started rapping about way back then. And if you've been listening to the BTS Study Guide episodes, you know that those dual personalities and finding ways to merge them to become your true self is a super common theme throughout BTS's work. And he was already doing that before it was a group-wide message. Also, March 20th of 2017 is when his collab with Wale called Change came out, which is still one of my favorite RM songs, honestly. And that has a similar theme, the themes and concepts that were central to BTS's School Love Affair trilogy and their other early work, that their main message then was focused less about personal growth and self-reflection and more on where their heads were at the time. That's what they've always been honest with their music, and that is an example because when they were younger, their key messages and thoughts were about their school days, about being kids growing up in the school system and feeling pressure to get perfect grades and feeling like they were being put into boxes and that the certain things they were being evaluated on weren't actual measures of their true skill level and were just leading to a lot of students to feel low self-esteem and not see their true worth outside of book smarts. And this is something rapped about endlessly in RM's early work. Some of the lyrics in this mixtape that address that include, quote, "Meaninglessly obsessing all day on being graded like cuts of beef. I just wanted to succeed. Without my mom knowing, I put a sheet of white paper between the pages of my workbook. My identity that I wrote down matched to the drum and bass. A different, relaxed feeling compared to when I got my report card." So even back then they were acknowledging, I know how you feel, as opposed to how dare you doodle during class. Have always thought about, well, why are they doing that? Why are they distracted in class? Why would they rather be somewhere else? Is it because they gave up and thought they weren't good enough? Is it because they haven't been excited and seen the bigger picture and meaning in what they're learning? Things like that. In the song Do You, RM talks about hating self-help books. Quote, "They have no backbone and believe others' words. What do you guys know about you? Your dreams, your hobbies, can they understand?" Another big theme he addresses is self-worth and fulfilling his dreams and what it means to have a dream or to not have a dream and know where you're going in life, which ties into his other big theme, feeling that your particular dream and career goals are not supported by peers, parents, teachers, etc. Some of my favorite quotes about that from this mixtape include in Voice, quote, "Just like my lyrics, every day in that way. The functions and equations that couldn't give me an answer. In the end, those things became uncountable injuries. It makes it impossible to see the stars hidden behind that light. Quote, the words I tediously heard from others were only that. I thought I could catch the mirage known as happiness, but the me in front of my desk wasn't happy even for a moment." He further tries to just make himself stand out and dismiss the labels in Do You, saying, I'm not pop, I'm not rock, I'm not funk, I'm not whatever category you box me into. He constantly goes back and forth where his head is at, going back and forth between boosting himself up and being confident versus admitting he's lonely and has low self-esteem. So those conflicting sides of his personality are always back and forth in his lyrics. But in the process, he's trying to just hold on to and embrace his name, his stage name. In the first song on this album, he talks about this is what R is all about. R being his initial, his stage name. What's interesting is that the other time he referred to himself as R was in Persona, a song made years later. Another repeated lyric, in Do You, he says haters gonna hate, players gonna play, which he also says in Mic Drop years later. So he keeps going back to those same themes that he's dealing with. He talks about in the song Awakening, yeah, I'm an idol, you can call me that if you want, don't care what you think. And those kind of words were also said years later in the song called, you guessed it, Idol. In God Rap, he says, do you know the reality that there's no shadow in the fire? That's really interesting, representing the fact that he doesn't have that shadow. And then years later, the band was learning not to ignore and pretend the shadow didn't exist, but learning to live with it. So in hindsight, that lyric has a lot more meaning. And that's why it's interesting to go back to the early work of these BTS members solo, because in hindsight, so much looks different. And you can see their growth just emotionally as well. The track list is really interesting here because he goes from Do You, which is super confident, to Awakening, where he says, in the moment of my failure, will someone hold my hand? In the moment when I come down from the stage, will that person be next to me? Just tell me that I can survive in this cold world. Every night inside me, I quietly fight with myself. It isn't these words, word play, it's just a war play the world plays. In Joke, he says first name greatest, last name ever. But then a few songs later in life, he's back to saying, quote, why is there no opposite word of loneliness? Could it be because people, until they die, have no moments of not being lonely? Even if our surroundings are boisterous, it's necessary to seek a moment to be alone. We live inside danger. Through the reward that makes us able to see this beautiful world. Even light is treasured more when there is darkness. The sunshine appears after we've passed through the storm. In the final song on this album, I believe, he just basically comes to terms with the fact he doesn't have the answers to any of these questions. But as long as he believes in himself, things will happen for him. Quote, even if I've had times where I've questioned my dream or my existence itself, I haven't ever questioned my voice. So real. But you have to believe in yourself, your own leader. Bad thoughts and pessimistic realizations, that'll seem like it's right, but you'll really erase your flavor. Everything can coexist, positive and negativity. The thing that guides me in this world is ultimately the two's synergy. He's learning to take the good with the bad, internally as well as externally, when he's talking about growing up. There's a lot more I could say, but those were just some really interesting thoughts I've been reflecting on that he posed in this mixtape. There is no opposite of loneliness. Is that because we would never use that word because no one feels not lonely? What does it mean to believe in yourself in a hollow way versus a authentic way? How do you balance that attempt at synergy between embracing the sunshine but not just ignoring the storm, embracing the flame in you but not ignoring the shadow? And those questions are posed in BTS's work at large as well, but RM also questions them in his own personal way through his solo work, which I really admire. Moving on, let's talk about some admirable details about Big Hit Entertainment's new rebrand at large. If you missed Big Hit Entertainment's total rebrand announcement and press conference the other day, I got you. So here are my notes. Let's go through them. First of all, I know this seems a little insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but not to me. What I was most concerned about with a rebrand would be that the Big Hit Entertainment opening credits logo image before music videos would go away. And that is like the little Pixar lamp video to me. It is so important. I just love the little boing noise and that sense of familiarity and comfort I get from watching any video from BTS or TXT, etc., and seeing the little Big Hit logo video. Anyway, I really hope that doesn't go away even though the name is changing. But I think we can rest easy now because their new brand is encompassing Big Hit music. Basically, this is not saying Big Hit Entertainment is turning into this new company, HYBE, HYBE, but that Big Hit Entertainment is now just changing to be called Big Hit Music, and it will be part of HYBE. So kind of a subsidiary of HYBE. because now that Big Hit Entertainment has been acquiring all these other companies, now they're all under the umbrella of HYBE, as opposed to people keep saying, oh, Big Hit Entertainment now technically owns them. Technically now, Big Hit Entertainment is also one of these companies owned by HYBE, in a way, but they are also the top management. We have live stream platforms like Weverse, and platform for merch purchases and things like that too. We have their innovative new idea for festival-like settings at concerts to cut the foot traffic, and make it so you're not just standing in a line bored before a concert. We have their just music production and management and day-to-day activities. Lift Lab and other programs. There are all sorts of different artists, labels, and platforms to communicate with fans that are all a part now of Big Hit Entertainment, so they felt like it was time to have a big name that would be a new umbrella term encompassing all that Big Hit Entertainment has acquired and continues to foster the development of. They describe this process as having three main pillars: labels, solutions, and platforms. The labels are like the music labels. The solutions are described as secondary businesses of each label. Basically a way to say whatever these individual labels want, they can still operate relatively autonomously. We will just be here to provide them tools that they need. So tailored to their interests, we are here with the resources they need to promote their artists, to work on their music, things like that. So those are the solutions, label solutions, and then the third variable is platforms like Weverse, ways that they are trying to connect with fans. They have officially just totally from scratch redesigned their actual physical building where they practice, make music, etc. It was actually designed by the visual director who's also worked with SM Entertainment Groups in the past. The architect behind this new building design went really deep into the reasons why certain visual details were added a certain way, why the format is the way it is of this new building. Ironically citing horizontal communication as an emphasis on the office design, while also making this building literally really vertical. There are 19 stories, but the office space is meant to reflect versatility in office style. Different parts can get bigger or smaller depending on the room size you want. There are certain folding doors and walls you can use for forming a tiny impromptu office room. There are a lot of malleable variables in these offices. The building is divided into 3 sections. There are floors 2 through 6, which are about entertainment production, film space, practice space, etc. 7th floor is storage. Floors 8 through 16 are office space. And the top floor is like a rooftop. The 19th floor is kind of like a rooftop gathering lounge place / auditorium of sorts, a big showcase room. So that's what they call the 3 categories: entertainment production, office space, and welfare space. And this definitely is a building for more than just the actual stuff they're doing specifically for their music. There are 3 floors with gyms, and 6 floors with libraries and lounge areas. So we are never gonna see Namjoon leave that building again. So that was one of 2 big takeaways I got from this press conference, is that this company has literally grown and expanded so much. Yet despite all of that new fame, they have stayed true to their core values that were behind the inspiration for making this company in the first place. Letting artists have lots of creative freedom, the ability to express themselves, and just giving them the tools they need to succeed on their own and develop that confidence, not feeling like you're overbearing as a manager, but still giving them enough support so that they don't feel ignored. And it also gave me a new appreciation for their core values, not just being a part of any one facet of the company, but even in how the building is constructed. Just at a very, very, very deep level, as cheesy as it may sound, they look into the deeper meaning of what they're doing, and they want to make sure that everything they're doing has integrity and intent. Viewing them as full people who need time to recharge so that they can perform their best. Not prioritizing work over everything else about an artist. Not viewing artists as just cash cows that should do tons of work for you. And tailoring your buildings, your space, to those needs as well. To mental and physical and emotional needs outside of just what makes you money. Some key quotes that stood out to me from the CEO and the founders, the people who have been with the company for years. Our job was ultimately to give healing and consolation through music. We must expand the fan experience by getting rid of barriers. And they talk about how platforms they found, like Weavers, hope to embody that message of music transcending boundaries, standing out from other companies and not trying to specify, here's the content for Japanese fans, here's content for English-speaking fans. The visual designer said, quote, "We may move tomorrow, but we should be comfortable today," which I just think is the best way to live your life. We may move tomorrow, but we should be comfortable today. This architect also described how spaces should be designed so that things are not placed together, but they come together naturally. The look of it all should just come to you instinctively if that's the best choice. There should just be a 24-hour HGTV special just for K-pop entertainment company buildings, because this stuff can get deep, and they could have a whole nice long rant about every little aspect of whatever they did to redesign a place, so let's let them have that microphone. I dedicated a lot of time to talking about this today because I think it really helps drive home what makes this company special and their artists so special. And they even described it as kind of a flow chart during the presentation. An individual hears music, it changes them personally, it can lead to personal growth and reflection and empathy, and that leads to connections with others, to eventually just groups of people changing the world, and just the power that music can have to change minds and the world at large. Again, as cheesy as it sounds, I think it's really important to stop and reflect on that, because artists with so much influence really need to be careful how they use it. But it is important that they don't discount those terms. So you can brush it off if it doesn't matter to you, but I'm not a fan of when famous people say they don't like the term influencer. They just want to teach you to be your own person. They don't like the thought that they're influencing people. And I get what they're trying to say with that, but I would argue that rejecting the term influencer has no actual bearing on if you influence people. So if you don't have control over the fact that you have a microphone, why not use it for good? If you just say you're not an influencer and brush it off, you're discounting the powerful positive impact you can have by just coming to terms with the fact that, like it or not, you are influencing people. So just accept that term and turn it into something to be proud of. So what I love is that BTS is saying celebrities are not overrated when it comes to their impact and why they're such a big deal to people. Because music really does make up our lives. It makes up these pivotal moments where something changed in our minds and our lives. And the people behind that music we naturally have a connection with or feel a connection with. And so use that connection. Don't discount it and think, I guess, don't take me seriously. They say, you know what, people are taking us seriously. People are listening to us. So let's make sure they're hearing things that are going to positively impact the world. They are using their platform and their understanding of the power of music with the utmost care and detail going into every aspect of what they do. And that is what is paying off. Last big news story for today. Let's talk a little more about the game I started talking about in the episode called De-Spotifyance, Dead by Daylight. Quick recap, this is a multiplayer horror video game which constantly incorporates new pop culture references into it. Nightmare on Elm Street has been referenced, Halloween, Silent Hill, etc. And the latest chapter is called All Kill, which features the K-pop star storyline that was worked on with Kevin Wu from U-Kiss as well as DJ Swivel. He's worked on songs like Euphoria by BTS. They were on board to make sure that a somewhat accurate representation of the K-pop world was there, although of course it's super fictional and takes on this murderous fictional plot. Jiwoon is the killer in this story, a K-pop star who was formerly in a band, but decided he was too jealous of his bandmates to not go solo, so he took their dying screams and turned them into synthesized music. Then there is Yoonjin Lee, who really wants to become a famous K-pop star, but just can't and has failed auditions before at her high school. But she does gain an internship at Mighty One Entertainment and works her way up to become a talent manager and producer, while trying to have her own solo career on the side. She's been instrumental in Jiwoon's whole rebranding project and was by his side from the get-go. Both of these characters have some unique powers. As the trickster, you have access to a lot of throwing knives in this game. You can also use this feature called Starstruck. That's a perk that will allow you to expose people that are trying to stay hidden. There's the No Way Out feature and the Hex crowd control feature, those we already talked about on the show. As for Yoonjin Lee, she has these perks like Fast Track, Smash Hit, and Self-Preservation. Two really interesting facts to share about this. First of all, characters typically don't speak. And so the trickster, not the first one to speak ever in this game, but he's the first to do so in a language that people still use today. So he will sometimes curse in Korean or say something else. But it's just interesting because language is usually, actual living languages are typically not used in this game, but they are for him. Other interesting detail is that the trickster really seems to be breaking the fourth wall. He will wink at you and stuff. It's really creepy, but that's the point. So it's quite an immersive game. There are also the sounds of screams in the game and stuff. It is a horror game after all, so it's not for people who are maybe newbies at playing games or just in general scaredy cats or easily creeped out in any way. But if you are that kind of person that likes those kind of gory games, this is a really intriguing, immersive way to play. And also really interesting if you want to get your K-pop theory hat on and think about the ways that K-pop fans were kind of accidentally trained to see the world and fictional stories as all being part of breaking the fourth wall, self-awareness, knowing that it's a movie within a dream or a dream within a TV show or a TV show within a movie, dealing with blurring the lines between dreams and reality. You all know, if you're longtime listeners, that is a core part of a lot of K-pop groups' stories and themes in their music video universes. So that is the latest on the game. It is regularly updated with new content, and this is just the latest edition. It's been going strong since 2016, so expect more in the future, but this is the first time K-pop has been added as a very unexpected twist to this whole story. Lastly for today, here are your miscellaneous rapid-fire K-pop headlines. The boys officially have their own official lightstick design. J-Hope's older sister has officially signed with HYBE Entertainment to help her business interests and other interests. She's already well known for being an influencer, a YouTuber. She actually also owns an online shopping mall. But of course, it's still exciting news. It doesn't hurt to have more company professional backing in her corner. Yang Yang from NCT/WayV just surpassed 4 million followers on Instagram. IU's BB is her first video to surpass 200 million views. Two Twice videos, which is so perfect, just surpassed 400 million views. Fancy and Like Ooh Ah. Rosé is officially the first female Korean soloist to be in the UK's official singles chart. Even more huge news for Rosé from Blackpink. She has reached #1 on both the Billboard Global 200 charts and the Global excluding US Billboard chart, which is a newer one. And so she's actually the first to top that one as both a soloist and part of a group. Rosé just started a personal YouTube channel. Taeyeon's Dark Clouds, the song I was raving about in the last episode, surpassed 2 million streams the other day. Junho from 2PM just got discharged from the military. BTS has now won their 16th Guinness World Record for most Kids' Choice Award wins for a music group in history, thanks to winning 3 this year. Now they have 5 total, and that is more than any other music group has been awarded in KCA's history. BTS also just scored 2 more wins from Denmark's GAFA Awards. Reaching 10 million views, Jessie's What Type of X and Super Junior's House Party. Alive just surpassed 100 million views, BTS's I Need You, the original version, and BTS's Ego, Jessie's New New Nana, and Rosé's On the Ground, which is now officially the fastest Korean female soloist video to reach 100 million views. Reaching 200 million views is Blackpink's Don't Know What to Do, the dance practice video. That is all for today's news roundup, but stay tuned. BTS study guide episodes. And next week I have a surprise interview dropping, as well as some more new content, a best of March recap. There is so much going on for the show. One last thing before I go. If you would like to donate to the victims of the Atlanta spa shootings, you can visit advancingjustice-atlanta.org. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all soon.